I was reading, you know, in your book, in the booklet that went with the double CD on that had all the Jeep Holland stuff that you recorded. That your next single, which was I thought really great too, is called "Feeling Lost."
Yeah.
Really had a kind of a British invasion thing
Yeah, Steve
going.
Carell sang that when I wrote the words and he wrote the music and he sang it. And we got Iggy to play the bass drum on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because our drummer was a marching band drummer. And so, you know, they didn't have drum kits, you know. They were just, you know, over the shoulder, you know, drums, you know.
Okay.
Like Otha Turner, you know, this Fife band, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I also read where Bob Seger was kind of involved in the production, or he helped out in the production. Is that right?
Yeah, he was around, and him and the guy he was working with, Doug Brown.
Doug Brown, yeah. He was Doug Brown in the Omens.
Yeah. Yeah. And they came down to the sessions, and then the next session we did was, well, after Respect, was Hold On Baby. Let me see. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that was the follow-up to Respect.
Yeah, and Bob sang the high harmony on that.
Whoa.
And back then his voice, he could hit these high notes and hold on, baby, you know, really high, and do it for the whole song. He was really good.
Did you guys discover that Sam Hawkins song, or was that Jeep who brought that to you? Do you remember?
Jeep was giving us all the cool songs, all the soul tunes. Like he was convinced that Leaving Here was going to be hit by Eddie Howland.
Yeah, it was a great song.
So we recorded it twice, and we took it to CLW and said, no, this is the B-side, this is the hit. It was Respect. So all of a sudden, like, it's a big deal. You know? We're doing Respect like 6 months before Aretha.
Yeah, there was some, rumors around that Jerry Wexler was really interested in you guys for Atlantic Records.
Yeah, he was.
And he may have suggested that song to Aretha to record.
I think he did.
I don't know if that's true or not.
And the Franklin family lived in Detroit at that time.
Right.
So, because Respect was on all the AM stations, top 40 stations, they call them, and they would have heard it like every day.
Well, right.
You know? So they must have think, well, we could do a better job of it. You know, of course they did, and they could. They did.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's something that we've talked about for a long time. Is
I think that was a lot of that was Carol, and she was involved in the arrangements, and maybe Irma too.
Do you remember much about? Of course, one reason that Respect, I think, got besides being a great song, but it got more national exposure is because you guys signed with Cameo Parkway, which had national distribution.
Yeah, we released it on A Square, and then Cameo Parkway picked it up. It's Alan Klein's company.
Do you remember much about the signing? Was it, trying to think of the guy that was the representative for Cameo that came around? He ended up doing Casablanca Records.
Oh, Neil Bogart.
Neil Bogart, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you meet him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was actually the guy who, signed you guys?
Yeah, Alan he was in New York or whatever, and Cameo's guy on the street was Neil. So he came to like the LSAC show at Cobo Hall, when they had to stop the show every time we would start Respect, like these girls would like charge the stage. So he tried to, when Alan Klein left Cameo Parkway, he tried to get all the Cameo bands to Capitol. And so he got Bob Seger there, and Question Mark and Grand Funk, and the Rationals for one song, which was I Need You, the Carole King, Jerry Goffin song. we picked it up from Chuck Jackson's version
Right.
and did our own, which has turned out pretty well.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people think it's better than the original.
The Chuck Jackson version is really good, but it's different
Yeah.
because it's with like an orchestra, and we're just like a band, you know.
Fantastic.
So did you, another interesting story around this time was your recording of Gloria.
Everybody did Gloria.
Yeah, but you guys intended that to be your single, right?
I don't remember.
And then,
We recorded it. I know.
yeah, and then the Shadows of Night put their version out before you got
Oh, okay.
yours,
Well, that
and
makes
that
sense.
pretty much killed it.
Yeah, I think we
But I
ran
always
into those
thought
guys
your
a few times.
version of Gloria was better than the Shadows of Night, and I'm a fan of the Shadows of Night, but
Yeah,
your
sure.
version of Gloria
Well, they're
was
from
really
Chicago,
good.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, another one of those, how that may have changed the whole direction of things if you would have put
Well,
that song
there's
out a
another
little
song
earlier.
that's almost the same song. It's by Ray Sharp. It's called "Help Me."
Oh, okay.
He had a big hit with a song called "Linda Lou."
I had the 45.
Okay, so he also did this song called Part 1 and Part 2 of "Help Me." It sounds just like Gloria, but Van Morrison obviously wrote
Right.
Gloria. He's the man behind the whole thing. So, if you go to the last waltz, you'll find out that people really perked up when Van Morrison did Caravan in the last waltz, and Dr. John says, I watched the house and I watch the band and I see what the reaction is, and Van Morrison was what really brought the house down, and the band was all smiling and having a good time. For some reason, I don't know, something about his energy, He's
Well, he was great. He
musician.
still is great, really.
Oh, yeah,
He's still
still
doing
is.
a lot
You
of
know,
Still playing.
Van connected with them in Woodstock when they all lived in Big Pink and stuff. So Van lived there for a little while
Yeah,
before he went to
so-
San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then when they made their move, Van was making, so they were kind of hand in hand at that time. And then, doing the last waltz in what, 76 or 75, it was like perfect because Van was up in San Francisco. They were down in, I can't remember where, it was the last studio that Robbie bought it is. I think that's where Rick Rubin is now, that studio. And they were just, their units were like one unit, they would always help each other out for that time
You're
period.
talking about the band
Yeah,
and Van Morrison
yeah,
working together?
yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
I don't know how much they worked together, but they lived near each other and inspired each other and did a lot. Like,
I didn't.
the band was in Woodstock, and that's what kind of got him
I
up
know
and down.
Van was into San Francisco, but I didn't know that the band was.
They were south of San Francisco. I don't remember how far south, but that's where Robbie bought that studio that currently is owned by Rick Rubin.
Oh, okay.
And-
American Records.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it
The
was.
John Cash.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Well, that was a different studio too, though. But that was that was the
that
movie
was his
theater.
big claim to fame.
Yeah, but there's anyway, the band had a lot to do with Van at that time, like keeping in touch. There was a lot of energy between the two from the Woodstock move to California. So
Well, Van appeared on he appeared on one of the band's songs on one of their albums.
yeah,
I'm trying to think the album.
Stage Fright or something.
I think it was Stage Fright.
Yeah,
He
it's
appeared on a cut there.
it's the Irish one. There's an
Yeah.
Irish name to it.
So they did Stage Fright in California?
They may have cut that up there. I can't remember. They did one album with Todd Rundgren, and then they boogied out to California, and Robbie Buck.
Yeah, Todd's still in New York, I think.
Well, he's in Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah.
Well, he was in New York for a
But
while.
Bearsville Studios was the big one in Woodstock where they all cut together.
Okay.
Van was there.
Whose
Dr.
studio was
John.
that? Was that?
It's still Bearsville Studios. It was the guy that was the manager of Bob Dylan and
Albert
Go-
Grossman.
Yes, Grossman Studio.
Grossman.
He owned it at the time.
He had Janis Joplin and
Yes, yes.
a lot of people.
But it was cool.
Tiny
synergy.
Tim.
What?
He managed Tiny Tim. Because I
Oh, yeah.
remember seeing you
Yeah, it was a big thing on Johnny Carson.
in 1969 at the Toronto Pop Festival. I was there, and I think that's the first time I met you.
What was I doing at the Toronto?
I don't know.
Okay. I
You were in
believe
the
that.
audience. I don't know if you played or not.
I don't think so, but I think some other people played at that show.
Right.
Did Joni
There was-
Mitchell play? Or Neil Young or anybody like that?
Well, wasn't that the,
No,
The band?
how about, wasn't John, didn't John
I'm trying to think
Lennon?
of-
no, that's a different one.
Oh, okay.
This
Neil's
was
from
earlier.
Ontario, right?
Okay.
There's a
But
place in Northern Ontario.
Right. But the band played at it, Teagarden and Van Winkle, because they both did The Wait. Teagarden and Van Winkle came out and played The Wait.
Really?
And then later that night, the band came out and did the same song. Because they,
Yeah.
they did it.
Yeah, those are two. Robbie
But I
Williams.
remember Teagarden and Van Winkle playing it.
Well,
And there were a couple other, I don't know if SRC played at that, but there was another Ann Arbor band that played at it. But it was Blood, Sweat and Tears, Sly and the Family Stone, Steppenwolf.
I don't even remember being there, but I don't think we played.
No, I don't think you played, but I remember meeting you there.
Okay, well then I wasn't.
let me throw out another name, Scott, Robin Seymour. He seemed
Yeah.
to have been somebody who was really
Yeah,
in
it's one of the two
the corner
people
for the
besides Sheep
Nationals. Yeah.
who really, and John and Pete Anders and John Sinclair and Jeep Holland were Robin Seymour and Russ Gibb at the Grande Ballroom, and we played Robin's show Swinging Time like 20 times. We were there all the time, and we got to be friends, with Robin, and he was really good to us,
Are there any tapes of those shows of Swinging Time? Did
Probably.
anybody
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
any
there
of
is.
those things?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I've
Really?
seen some on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
So some performances of the
Yeah,
Nationals?
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I'll have to dig those out. I didn't realize there were any, how about SRC? Are
But
there,
there's one with Bob Seger doing East Side Story.
okay. I've seen
There's
the one-
several of the Rationals. We did Respect, of course, and something else, maybe like Leaving Here.
Okay.
Something else.
And then